Last month, you navigated a massive financial crisis with the cold, dead efficiency of a hostage negotiator. You didn't even flinch. But right now, you are standing in your hallway, practically vibrating with homicidal rage and holding back tears, all because your belt loop just got aggressively yanked by a doorknob. And almost instantly, right behind that white-hot flash of anger, comes the shame. A deep, suffocating wave of it. Because society loves to spoon-feed us that aggressively cheerful, don't sweat the small stuff, bumper sticker philosophy. Usually delivered by someone who has never had to actually survive anything more traumatic than a weak Wi-Fi signal. So when you completely lose your mind over a piece of brushed nickel hardware, the internal conflict is brutal. You start doing the frantic mental math, wondering how you survived absolute hell eviction illness or unimaginable grief without shedding a single tear. But a tiny piece of wood and brass is suddenly making you want to burn your own house down to the foundation. You are exhausted by the sheer unpredictability of your own nervous system. You are standing there, tethered to a door, terrified that your armor is finally cracking over absolutely nothing. You think you are finally going crazy. Let's stop that spiral right now. Take a breath. You are not fundamentally broken. You are not defective. And you are absolutely not losing your grip on reality. What you are experiencing isn't a glitch in your hardware. It is a highly specialized, fiercely protective operating system doing exactly what it was programmed to do. When you spend years functioning as the designated shock absorber for your environment, walking through constant emotional crossfire, your brain learns to prioritize survival over comfort. It adopts a chaotic, beautifully scrappy method of keeping you alive, like a raccoon thriving in a storm drain. Sure, surviving on a diet of pure cortisol, iced coffee, and hypervigilance isn't exactly the wellness retreat lifestyle, but it kept you breathing when the sky was falling. Your mind figured out that feeling the weight of a catastrophe in real time would destroy you. So, it brilliantly walled off the panic. It turned your emotional responses into cold, tactical protocols. It suppressed the fear, swallowed the grief, ignored the exhaustion, and kept you moving forward, step by agonizing step, because falling apart simply was not a luxury you could afford. Your seemingly bizarre overreaction to a snagged pocket, it is not madness. It is a desperately logical tactic, born from an exhausted system trying to keep you safe. Let's talk about the actual science of why you want to physically fight a piece of architecture. In clinical terms, this is called allostatic overload and nervous system sensitization. But because we do not speak like dusty medical textbooks around here, let us just translate that to what it actually feels like carrying a metric ton of invisible bricks while trying to balance a teacup on your nose. When you endure prolonged trauma or chronic, suffocating stress, your body's allostatic load, which is just a fancy term for the cumulative wear and tear of constantly pumping out cortisol and adrenaline, completely maxes out. Your nervous system becomes highly sensitized. It is permanently redlined. Think of your brain right now as a smartphone running 47 heavy background apps on exactly 1% battery. When a massive crisis hits your life, a layoff, an eviction, a terrifying medical diagnosis, it is the equivalent of a total system crash. And your brain is brilliant. It automatically plugs into emergency power. It shuts down all the frivolous background apps like feeling your feelings or processing grief. It focuses entirely on rebooting and surviving. It operates with terrifying, mechanical perfection. But then comes the doorknob yank. The physical restraint of a piece of metal aggressively snagging your clothes is not a system crash. It is a loud, incredibly obnoxious, unskippable pop-up ad for a terrible mobile game. Your brain does not have tactical, heavy-duty emergency protocols for a pop-up ad. There is no trauma response flowchart for your favorite sweatpants being violently assaulted by a door. So, what happens? Because your nervous system is already humming at maximum capacity, that sudden, jerky physical restraint completely bypasses your rational logic. It registers not as a minor inconvenience, but as an immediate, physical attack. Your internal smartphone just freezes, aggressively catches fire, and completely bricks itself. It triggers an unsuppressed, massive fight-or-flight dump over absolutely nothing. Because this response is so purely instinctual, it usually manifests in one of three very specific, highly exhausting ways. I want you to listen closely and figure out exactly which flavor of nervous system collapse you usually default to. Type 1 is the inanimate aggressor. If you are this type, your immediate response to the snag is pure, unadulterated combat. You do not just sigh. You violently rip the fabric back. Ugh. You verbally berate the door. You throw a vicious elbow at the door frame. You glare at the hinges like they have personally insulted your ancestors. And you are flooded with a surge of adrenaline so potent, you could probably bench press a refrigerator. You are ready to fight the architecture to the death. Type 2 is the silent imploder. You do not fight. You just stop. You stand perfectly still, tethered to the brass handle, and you stare blankly into the middle distance. You look like a Victorian ghost contemplating the tragic futility of human existence. You do not yell. Instead, a single, devastatingly exhausted tear rolls down your cheek, because this minor inconvenience is the universe's ultimate confirmation that you are fundamentally not allowed to move forward without being violently pulled back. And finally, type 3, the floor sprawler. When the snag happens, your legs simply stop working. You do not get mad, and you do not cry. You just slowly sink to the hallway linoleum, lie flat on your back, and accept your fate. You decide right then and there that this is your new permanent address. You live by the bathroom door now. This is it. The resistance is over. You have surrendered to the piece of metal. Here is the raw, uncomfortable truth about why you do this. Your doorknob meltdown is not a glitch. It is a flawless, deeply calculated feature of your survival wiring. It is the ultimate expression of Raccoon Logic. Your brain is a remarkably brilliant, albeit entirely exhausted, strategist. When the actual trauma was happening, when you were navigating the crisis, the hospital visits, the financial ruin, it knew you could not afford to fall apart. It looked at the catastrophic threat level, realized you needed every ounce of cognitive processing power just to survive the next 10 minutes. And it deliberately walled off the panic, the grief, and the sheer terror behind a massive steel vault. It kept you functioning. It kept you alive. But adrenaline does not just evaporate. It backlogs. It sits deep inside your nervous system, festering, waiting for a safe moment to finally release the pressure. And that is exactly what the doorknob snag provides. It is a perfectly safe, incredibly low-stakes excuse. A piece of brass cannot fire you. It cannot diagnose you with a terminal illness, and it definitely cannot ruin your credit score. Your nervous system finally looks around your hallway, realizes there are no active predators, and uses that sudden physical yank to throw open the pressure valve. That visceral feeling of being physically pulled backward, it triggers the backlog. It dumps all that accumulated, suffocating emotion in one agonizing rush. You are not losing your grip on reality, my friend. You are not regressing. You are simply, finally, in a safe enough environment to let your armor dent. So, the next time your pocket catches on the handle and you feel that blinding rage bubble up, do not bury it. Let it out. You have earned every single ounce of that exhaustion. You are officially allowed to be mad at the door. Maybe even flip at the bird on your way to the kitchen. It deserves it. But before you go recover from existing today, I need to know something. Scroll down to the comments and confess. If your nervous system feels violently called out right now, which flavor of breakdown are you claiming? Are you the inanimate aggressor, the silent imploder, or the floor sprawler? Claim your title. There is zero judgment here. Just a whole community of exhausted raccoons trying to navigate the hallway. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one.